Hello. Oh God, that's a funny light behind me. Uh, I hello everybody. I'm just waiting for Dr. Gadir to come on. Now, Dr. Gadir is a doctor who you might have heard his voice on the podcast that I did last year. Hi, Maddie. And he's an expert on. Well, I'm going to let him tell you everything. He's an expert. He's a doctor who deals a lot in surrogacy, in helping people have children who thought they could never have children. And hopefully he signs on here any minute so we can have him on. But in the meantime, if you would, oh, hold on. I think we're getting there. No, not yet. All right. There he is. Here we go. Dr. Gadir, who's gonna, and so please feel free to ask a bunch of questions. We'll give answers. Hi,
Hello.
Dr. Gadir. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just going to adjust the volume a little bit.
All right. Well, we have people must have very little to do because we have a lot of people in here who want to chat with you. And granted, they're probably smart. Because I have to say, and I know some people say it's a joke, but I wonder if it's true, that on the other side of all of this that we're going through, there may be a boom, yes, in divorces, but also babies. And you're of course, and you're of course on the forefront of the baby front.
First of all, I hope it's not divorces. For my sake and for the sake of everyone, I hope it's baby boom. Baby booms are always good, and we're always happy to help anyone talk about making babies. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Shaheen Gadir. I'm one of the physicians at Partners at Southern California Reproductive Center in Los Angeles, California. And we specialize in helping anyone who wants to have a beautiful family and to start a family, have a baby. So one of the things that I was talking to Lance about is that I've gotten a lot of messages in the last month, a lot of messages about people just asking questions about how do I start this process? It is so challenging. I don't know where to begin. Do I find a surrogate? Do I find an egg donor? Do I talk to the doctor first? I've talked to friends of mine. Some of them couldn't even help me figure out how to proceed. So it's been rather challenging, and I thought it would be a wonderful, wonderful time to discuss and see and how we can help people kind of navigate this process, because Lance is a pro and he's done a really good job, and I'm happy to help anyone who needs to begin this process.
I just had, I'm in a unique situation here because we had our son in California, but we live in the United Kingdom. And so someone just asked the question, can you get a parental order if you go through surrogacy in the United States? And the answer is yes, absolutely. It is a changing legal landscape in the United Kingdom. I'm not sure that those changes will happen as rapidly as some would hope right now. But those laws are in place to, yes, absolutely get a parental order if you have your child. And Tom and I went through that. It's a strange process, but it is one you can do on your own, or you can have some legal help getting it done.
So, and I saw a question popped up. Well, I need to find a boyfriend first? Yeah, we have many people that do this alone. So we do have individuals that do this alone, single females, single males. It's amazing and fantastic when we have a loving couple that's ready to do this together. There are steps involved with this that I wanted to kind of guide people through and kind of allow them to know how to get started. I think it's really important to do this well. We help people around the world. So I can't think of a country that does not allow you to get the legal documentation to legally bring the child back into the country as your child, whether you're going through surrogacy or not. And I do know that many of our patients that come to us from Europe and, to be honest, around the world, have absolutely no problems doing so. We have legal staff that we recommend people to use that are professional in the area of fertility. So they are aware of all of the obstacles that someone may have trying to get a baby back to their home country. And that's not an issue for anyone. And I just want everyone to be aware. And nor do you have to live in Los Angeles to be able to do this process. You will have to have one visit to our clinic, and everything could be done in one day. We usually try to take care of as much as we can before the process of someone arriving here. And I just wanted everyone to kind of know that you don't have to necessarily even be living here to do so.
Yeah, we were definitely not living in California. That's where we had our surrogacy journey. Someone just asked, and you and I will have different answers for this a little, if the egg donor is an anonymous thing or not. And,
so
that's probably particular to gay men.
Yeah, so in the egg donation process that gay couples use, so when you're a gay couple going through this process, you need an egg donor, and you also need a gestational surrogate that's going to carry the pregnancy. The majority of our egg donors are anonymous. My clinic, SCRC, has their own egg donor agency that is exclusively for our own patients to pick from. We have about 300 different donors, and if you're unable to find someone that meets your needs, we're more than happy, and we have an entire division that helps you start looking for donors throughout the entire country and to find great donors. There are many, many very good agencies out there that help people find the donors, so we're happy to help you find that process. There are situations where you can choose a donor if you want them to be open to meet your child in the future, and that would be documented and decided upon before any of this begins. So by saying that, I'm trying to say is that you could pick a donor if you want your child to have the option at the age of 18 to meet the donor, and some of them are open to that. And if you don't want that option, then you have that right as well from the beginning. So you can basically choose or not choose to have a donor that's going to be open to meeting your child in the future.
And for and that is a bit different here in the United Kingdom, in that there is no such thing as anonymous. It's not allowed here. And like you were just saying, it's up to the parties to agree, the donor and the intended parents to agree. What do they want? How do they want it to look? For Tom and I, we wanted to know everybody because we're very social, and we wanted our we just didn't want any secrets, and that was our preference. And we can't wait for our son to meet his egg donor when we can fly again. There was a question, Dr. Gadeer, I saw go past. Is the same true, and I don't know this answer, for people who need sperm donors? There was a lesbian who just asked that question. What about
I saw that question pop up as well, and that is actually the case as well. So some of the largest sperm banks in the country, the California Cryobank is one that's local, but they are the largest sperm bank in the entire world, and they are able to help people find donors as well for sperm donors. And yes, there are donors that are willing and open at the age of 18 to meet and be open with a child versus people that are not. So you can, if that's important for you, you can definitely select that. One other important thing that you need to be aware of, in the United States, the process of picking a sperm donor, even if it's an anonymous sperm donor that you are not going to meet when your child is 18 or not open to that, you are able to pick pictures, see videos, read about their family backgrounds, which is really important. The reason I say that is because in many countries, you're on a list. And when your turn comes up, the next donor is your donor. You have absolutely no idea, potentially even the race or anything more than that, of the person. You don't get to see their attributes. You don't get to see if they have any resemblance to you in any way, or what may be important for you, even in a family history. That's important. We do genetic testing on all of our intended parents. So when we're using sperm from someone, we do a genetic panel that's about 300 different diseases. And we do the same panel also on the egg donor to make sure that they don't have the same disorder. Because if the sperm and the egg are both carrying the same disorder, there's a chance to pass on the disease to the child. So we're very careful about that. And that's one of the things that we do to screen to make sure that we can get the best outcomes. Lance, I'm seeing lots of really good questions
I
come up.
know.
Time to read. So I hope that you're kind of screening as I'm
I am.
talking away.
Oh, I am.
Okay.
I got it. I didn't know this would become me. I feel like Ellen DeGeneres right now. I could be so lucky. I get to ask the questions. I thought it was going to be the opposite, but I like this. I dig it. There was a really interesting question that I don't quite know the answer of this, and it was from someone who asked, can HIV positive couples go through this surrogacy process and use their own sperm, their own genetic material, their own eggs?
Great question. Great question. So over the last few years, there have been technologies that have come out. So if you are not having any positive viral load and you are on all of the correct medications to make you as healthy as possible, the sperm can go through. There's 2 laboratories in the United States that we can send you to. The sperm is then processed and then sent to us. And also there's a protocol that involves prep for the actual surrogate to be on as well to decrease any chances. There have been hundreds and hundreds of cases of HIV positive men, and we have had many in our own clinic that have had biological children of their own and had no transmission to the child and no transmission to the surrogate, and have had very, very, very healthy outcomes.
Wow, that is a huge change, and what a gift that, so many. I mean, I've had so many. I've lost a lot of friends to HIV back in the day, AIDS back in the day, and so to think that your life is no longer limited, even in terms of family and parenthood, boy, that is wonderful to hear. I didn't know that. So someone just asked, and I can give my experience, but I'm curious yours. How long would you say someone should expect a surrogacy journey to take? From, let's just say, the moment that they individually or they and their partner say, you know what, this is what we want to do. Whether that's because, it's a gay couple or a lesbian couple or a heterosexual couple with fertility issues.
So this varies tremendously. So there's different ways of beginning the process, and I'm going to just kind of dive in. For couples that are needing to use an egg donor, it really depends on them on how quickly they're able to find their egg donor. I have had couples that we talked on Friday, and on Monday they had picked their egg donor by looking on the weekend, and the egg donor has been available and has been ready to proceed, and we get them in for a screening, and within 2 months we have embryos created that can be used, and we are ready to proceed with that. So we can go very, very quickly. If patients get really picky and are unable to find things, and I've had patients take 1 year without being able to find their egg donor. But most people, when they put their head to it, are able to do so. We also have a service here in our clinic that if it's too challenging for you to do it, we have someone here at my office that works with you and finds out exactly what is the most important attributes and things you're looking for in a donor, and we can do the search for you. So once we find the donor, the next process is to make embryos. So we get sperm and we stimulate the egg donor to give us a bunch of eggs. Sometimes we get 20, 30 eggs out of the donor, and then we put them through the process of what's called in vitro fertilization, or IVF. We put egg and sperm together to grow in a laboratory environment, and at the end of the week, any embryo that has grown beautifully and nicely and gets gotten to a certain stage called a blastocyst, at that point, we are able to do genetic testing and freeze those embryos. And within a week or two, we call you back and say you have 3 normal males and 4 normal females and a few genetically abnormal ones. And all the genetically normal embryos are then saved to be placed into and implanted into a surrogate. I feel that it's really important to, once being in the process of making embryos, at that point that we know we're going to have some great outcome is when we start looking for the surrogate. I don't really believe in getting a surrogate from early on and just having her wait there, because there's a chance that she may not want to be waiting along. And also, until you have an outcome that has good embryos, I think it's kind of purposeless to have a surrogate there. So once we have genetically normal embryos, we're a very large clinic, very well connected. We reach out to a good 5 to 10 different surrogacy agencies that we think are reputable. And generally speaking, within a month, we're able to make a match of getting the surrogate. So that's about 3 months to 3.5 months into this process. And usually at about 4 months, we're able to get the transfer going of what's called a frozen embryo transfer into the surrogate. and then it's about 9 months of waiting. So I would say that if you are on top of this, if you're working with a reputable clinic, a good team of people that are helping you, within about a year and few months to a year and a half, your journey could be complete with a beautiful baby in your arms.
Wow. That's about what ours timed out to, I would guess, I would think. I have, because I think probably a good many people are looking at this going, oh, is this for gay people solely? But then I also am looking at the questions, and they're coming mostly from straight folk. Is that, do you have a mix in your practice of gay and straight and lesbian folks who are looking at this?
We help anyone, any person who is a caring human being that is ready to start their family. We do consultations with, and we give advice. Nothing is cookie cutter. So everything is specific to the individual. We have a large number of heterosexual couples. We have a large number of lesbian couples and gay couples coming through. And as I said earlier, we have a large number of single individuals, female and male, coming through, and they're ready to start their journey. We're not here to judge. We're here to help anyone who is ready to start their family. The process of surrogacy has grown tremendously for everyone. So in the world of fertility, what has grown faster than any other technology is the use of a gestational surrogate, especially since many people around the world are not able to use surrogates, and it's illegal in many countries. And also in the United States, there's only about 20-something states that even allow for surrogacy. California is one of the most open states in terms of fertility. We are able to use egg donors, sperm donors, surrogates. We're able to do almost everything. We have incredibly high standards of how we do this in my practice so that everyone is protected. Legal contracts are really necessary. There's a lot of great agencies that we work with as well, but we definitely have this opportunity to be able to do this for lots of people, whether they're gay or straight.
And I'm seeing a lot of questions about costs, and just from the podcast that we did, the costs. It's a tough one to answer because, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Gadeer, but it depends on how fortunate you are in terms of how many cycles you need before you successfully have a pregnancy. But it also depends on where you are in the world. If you're in a country like the United Kingdom that pays for healthcare, it's a lot cheaper. You have to remember that costs in America are very high because medical costs are high, or much higher. I shouldn't say very high because it's higher. So it's a tough one to discuss, but am I right to say it kind of depends?
It really depends. So there's a large number of surrogacy agencies in the country. Some of the surrogacy agencies are more affordable than others. You sometimes get what you pay for. Some of them are very expensive and have a lot of hand-holding. I like to get to know the patients really well to see what I think would be a good fit for them in terms of where I refer them to and where we try to look for surrogates for them. It's almost impossible to get near a surrogacy journey for under $100,000. There are legal contracts involved. There are special insurances involved. There's the fees that go to the surrogates. There's a lot involved in this process. So the process of finding the surrogate can really, really depend. But I'd say if you need a rough number, you should look at the number of about $100,000 as a starting point for using a surrogate. There's lots of different ways to go forward with this. Some people have brought in friends that we do screening, or a cousin or a sister to help them with this opportunity, and we're able to do so as well. But it starts usually at around $100,000 and $110,000 for that process.
And that, by the way, yeah, thank you. And that depends on where you are geographically. But I will say to those trying to save the money, part of the reason that it is more expensive in California is, well, yes, you have medical costs you have to bear, but it's also safer legally. And I think that safety isn't just safe for the intended parents of the child, but also for the surrogates and egg donors. So for me, I say, I know it's a lot, but doesn't it make sense to make sure that everyone involved is as safe and healthy as possible at the end of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to reiterate this because we have patients that have undergone years of fertility treatment and surrogacy journeys in other countries that I'm just not going to name right now, but have had disasters, unfortunately. The level that the federal government gets involved and the regulations that we follow here in California are to the highest standard possible. I think it's incredibly important when beginning this process that you have an incredibly reputable team of people and a reputable clinic and agency that are beginning this process for you. Because if you're not protected by people that are knowing what they're doing the right things for you, it could be disastrous, and you may have tried to save some money somewhere, but had now in the long run been spending more money. I go to conferences around the world, and I hear some of the other countries that are there representing their processes of how they do surrogacy. And to be honest, at times I'm beyond shocked at how crazy this process is and how they have minimal regulations in terms of how it works and the disasters that I've heard of from my own patients that have tried to do this in other places before. And also here in the United States, I'm really happy to finally say that there are employers and insurance companies that are actually covering this to large degrees. A lot of the tech companies are giving, it's not all insurance companies, but like Netflix and Snapchat and Apple, they're giving $75,000 of insurance coverage that can go towards surrogacy. And I think that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's really, I have a friend who's on a journey now and his company is paying for it, which is lovely. There's a couple questions. One, some of them, this is a question that comes up fairly often, which was a question of whether or not a situation can exist where the surrogate is able to know, visit, see the child that they gave birth to. And this actually, I think, speaks to one of the big misconceptions about surrogacy in places where it's done reputably. And that is that agreement happens before you're matched. So you're only matched, first of all, the surrogate has to choose you. It doesn't go the other way. The surrogate chooses the intended parents based on a profile that the intended parents, as in Tom and I, created. And in ours, we were very clear that we wanted to have a relationship and we wanted our child or children to have a relationship with their surrogate. And so we were only matched with surrogates who wanted that same thing. Now, I'm sure there's some out there who don't, and there are probably some intended parents who don't, and then they get matched. But it's always, in places that do this reputably, that the desires should be well aligned. And that should all be decided before anything moves forward. And frankly, then on the touchy-feely, less medical side, it's awesome. We are so close with our surrogate. It's almost, for us, maybe it's extreme. It's almost daily. She's a member of our family now, and absolutely, when our son sees her lately on FaceTime, he lights up. And so, that's just what we wanted, and that's what she wanted, and it's worked out well, but not everyone wants that.
But it's great that you addressed that beforehand. And I want people to know it's not an unknown. You make those decisions beforehand. There is a significant contract that you're going to be agreeing upon and both parties signing before you start this process. So if you want that person involved, that's something to address before. And if you don't want that involved or addressed in any way, or that to be a part of your life, you address that beforehand as well.
Oh, here's a good question. Someone just asked, do I have to be a U.S. citizen to do a surrogacy journey in the U.S.?
And the answer is no. You do not have to be a U.S. citizen. I'd say probably half of our patients that are doing surrogacy in our clinic are foreigners. So people that are not U.S. citizens in any way.
Right. Let's see. Someone asked, if we want more children, the answer is yeah, like 1,000. Are we open to adoption as well? Absolutely. Everyone makes their decisions for a certain reason. For Tom and I, I've said this 1,000 times, it was important for us to have that link to our son or daughter or whatever. Partly, I think, because we had both experienced some great losses in our families, and it's something we wanted. And thankfully, there was a surrogate out there who chose us and made that dream come true. but in the future, who knows? I mean, who knows? There's a lot of good options, but I will say, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to, was happy to speak with you, is that there are places in the world where this is done irresponsibly still, and there are places where it's done very responsibly. And by responsibly, I mean looking out for the welfare of everyone from the egg donor and the surrogate and the intended parents and the child. And I do know, Dr. Gadir, that is what you make a priority. I also know, having sat with you, you do not judge anyone, which is rare and beautiful. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I just saw so many good questions that are popping up and so many people that love Lance. Love that.
I mean, you're on my page. It's a little unfair, but
yeah, there was a great question that just popped up a second ago, and it said the legal aspects. Our teams here will help with the entire legal process. So we have handfuls of attorneys that specialize in the world of fertility. They are a special field of law that does all of its contracts and helps you with a lot of these things as you proceed. So we kind of take care of all of that for you, and we help you so you're not lost in any way.
Someone just asked why I did it in the U.S. instead of the U.K., and I'll say it's loud and clear. If you listen to the podcast that we did last year with the BBC, I answer this, and it's that in the U.S., in certain states, there's very clear law that protects, number one, the surrogate, also the egg donor, the intended parents, and the child. It makes sure that everyone is healthy enough to be doing this. Good law and good practices ensure that everyone's both physically and mentally well enough to do it, that no one is doing it out of a need for money, out of desperation. These things are all checked. And that law is in place to protect everyone. So unfortunately, here in the United Kingdom, though I think this will change at some point, I hope soon, contracts between surrogates and intended parents are as worthwhile as trash. They are not respected in a court of law here in the United Kingdom. Wow. And so everyone involved has to base their journey on trust. And as much as I love trust, I don't think that creates the foundation of security that you can then go through the journey and focus on building a family instead of having this nagging insecurity in the back of your head. I think good law creates good behavior. And right now, the best law, I believe, is in the United States.
I have to agree with that 100%. I did want to clarify something that someone had asked. So the surrogate does have to agree to be your surrogate, but at the exact same time, you also are picking the surrogate. So if you find a surrogate that you're not interested in and there's something about her that you don't like, or she's single and not married, that's something that you pick. So it's actually bilateral. You both pick each other. So I just wanted to clarify, it's not just the surrogate picking you, but it goes both ways as well. Yeah. So that was a really important question that I saw that popped up. And in terms of the number of viable embryos typically implanted in the surrogate, in our clinic, because we have very high success rates that have reached over 80% for every genetically normal implanted embryo, we do not transfer more than 2 embryos. So most of our patients are transferring 1 embryo at a time. For many of our gay couples, we are putting 1 embryo from each dad that is created with their own sperm biologically. So we're able to put 2 in at a time. But the majority of our patients in this clinic have 1 embryo put back at a time.
All right, 2 things I have to do really quick. First of all, one of my favorite people is here, Sparkly Jane. I'm not sure she'll know that I just said that. But also, look at who else is here.
Hello, oh my gosh, my hair's awful. My hair's so long at the moment. Hello.
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 My second favorite person.
I was just coming down because it's time for a certain someone's bath in 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. So
Are you talking about Lance? Is it Lance's bath time again?
Yeah, we'll put him in the bath and make sure he's all scrubbed and get behind his ears. I have to be there at all times to be, attend him to make sure he doesn't go under the water. So
I wish. I thought that being on lockdown meant I didn't have to even shower or anything, but evidently he's making me keep clean. Though this hair is gonna get crazy long. Hey, I should probably be a good father and husband and go help put our son to bed. But is there anything else that you wanted to say before I?
Absolutely. I saw. Thank you, first of all, very much. I love you both, and I appreciate everything you do to educate everyone about what is going on in the world of fertility and about your own beautiful journey that's been unbelievable, and you've been so open about it. For anyone who's interested, I saw a lot of questions come by that we did not get a chance to answer. Please feel free to message me directly at Dr. Shaheen Gadir. Our clinic is Southern California Reproductive Center in Beverly Hills, California, and we are putting webinars on a regular basis where you're able to watch from around the world, and we're doing consultations by phone and by video chat with people around the world all day long these days, trying to stay safe and keeping our distance, but getting people ready for moving forward as soon as these bans on our life are over. But I wanted to thank everybody. We also did one more final thing, say is that we started a YouTube channel that's called Fertility Talk by Dr. Shaheen Gadir. It started a couple of weeks ago with some great videos about topics that I think are really important for everyone to be aware of. So if anyone wants any more information, feel free to reach out to us. Tom and Lance, thank you both very much. I really appreciate this. And I really look forward to helping other people kind of go into the same beautiful path as you guys have with no bumps in the road.
I'm just going to say, to leave it here, Dr. Gadir, as you can tell, is very smart. He's eloquent. He lets you know all the information. You just wait. He's also a softie. He'll shed tears. He's a sweetheart, a secret sweetheart. And we love you, and it's so good to see you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Nice to see you guys. Bye. Bye-bye.